Hey guys, what's up? Phoenix here, and we're back again in Escape from Tarkov. So today I'll be doing a loadout guide on the AKM. What we'll do is we'll go over the gun's usage, how I recommend using it, how I use it, then we'll go over the attachments, and then I'll show you some footage that I've already recorded of me using the gun and the armor-piercing ammunition, and kind of going over, where it's best encountered in an actual physical, environment rather than just in the menu screen. You'll be able to see how it plays. So to start off with here, the AKM was kind of the major assault rifle that was introduced in the last patch. It's a 7.62 firing. I mean, you can read it all here. This is the militarized version, by the way. I'll be doing another video on the civilian variant. But overall, this, the militarized version is just the AKM. Fires at 600 rounds per minute, has an effective distance of 400 meters, 7.62 caliber, so it drops people relatively quickly. But its fire rate's a lot lower. So, for example, the M4 has a fire rate of 800 rounds per minute. It's an extra 200. So if you're getting into a one-on-one fight, then this is kind of the gun that you want to be, you want to make sure that your shot hits first, and you want to get the drop on somebody. You don't want to be going against somebody with a high rate of fire, because even though it does a bit more damage, chances are if you're going up against someone with an M4 and it's your fire rate against their fire rate, you're just staring at each other down a hallway. If you're aiming at both the same point, exact same skill level, they're going to kick your ass because they're just putting more rounds down range, rather than doing that amount of damage. By the time that you get, 2 down, they've got 3 down, and you've lost. So this is kind of one of those guns where you want to pick your battles. You want to get the first shot on, and you want to be in a position to fire before anyone else. So you kind of need to be in a position, ready to go, and get the drop on somebody else when they rock up. So that's kind of the best way to explain how I recommend playing the gun, rather than running and gunning. Kind of, sit back, wait a second, and just be prepared for people. So that's not exactly how I play in the videos that I've recorded, mostly because it's on factory, and factory is a lot more, it's a lot more run and gun than anything else. But it does perform in a run and gun scenario as well, as you'll see. Anyway, so now to get on to attachments. So it's funny enough, I actually picked this up from a player a few days ago that I managed to get the drop on and kill, and it's a pretty standard, I guess, modification system. So he's got the suppressor on. He's got the, again, sights are all personal preference, doesn't really matter. But yeah, so he's got that on. Overall, though, it is using the new, I'll have to jump in here to actually have a look. It is using the new keymod system, and in order to install that keymod system, you have to have the new gas tube, which is the Kibber Arms. The Kibber Arms doesn't really have any benefit over the standard one, but the UFM keymod system is a bit more ergonomic, and obviously you can attach a lot more. Though the issue I had with attaching the shift to it, so an actual foregrip, is you have to install the 6-inch keymod, 6-inch guide, in order to actually install something on it. So without the keymod, without the 6-inch guide, you can't install a foregrip on the keymod. Keymod comes up a lot more than you'd think, so it's a bit of a tongue twister. But yeah, so you do need the 6-inch guide to actually run it properly with a foregrip. And the shift foregrip operates basically the same as the Tango Down stubby grip does. So in terms of recoil reductions, 15. All pretty standard stuff, and you can play around with it yourself. It's pretty cheap. You can get it from 34k from Parapor, and then obviously all the modifications are kind of where it takes a hit into your stash. Kind of the most notable thing, though, and it's something that I haven't realised playing this game for months and months on end, mostly because I just never got around to testing it properly. So what's actually been done here is old mate's chucked on, so he's chucked on the ME4, then he's chucked on a Colt buffer tube, then the MOE stock, and the rubber butt pad. Now I've just been running the Basket on basically all of my AK weapons because it has a recoil reduction of 40. Well, if you look at this, I guess the best way to do it is probably from this menu, rather. So if you go and find the ME4, right? So if you go to the Colt buffer tube, it's a recoil reduction of 5. Go to the MOE carbine stock, 37, another 3. So you're looking at 45 recoil reduction rather than 40. So it is actually better in terms of recoil reduction to run with the MOE stock than it is to run with the Basket. But it does just come down to personal preference. If you don't need that recoil reduction, if you're going to be sitting back and firing single shots, that's not really an issue. But in terms of full auto fire, it does have a fair bit of recoil. So having that already ready to go, having that extra 5 points of recoil reduction does make a noticeable difference. I can tell you that much. So overall, that's kind of just how I've got it set up at the moment. You can set it up however you want. This is pretty heavily modified. Obviously, some things don't really do anything. For example, the pistol grip doesn't really do anything. It just goes with the theme of the gun being black. So, overall, that's kind of my reason for just running with that. But silencers is pretty self-explanatory. If you find yourself as a single player a fair bit, silencers are awesome because they can kind of even the odds between you and a group of 5 or a group of 3 or whatever. In terms of the foregrip, again, recoil reduction, and then the stock recoil reduction is kind of why I chose that over anything else. Sight is all personal preference. You can basically pick anyone. They're all the same. Same with the placement. If you want to put it further up on the gun, or further back, totally your choice. It doesn't really affect the gun's performance in any way whatsoever. But as you can see, the ergonomics of the gun are actually quite a bit better with the additional modifications that I've made. And you can see that in the blue areas there. So overall, highly recommend the gun. It's definitely a powerhouse, but it doesn't have the fire rate to really compete in CQB. It's kind of something that you want to sit down and kind of set up your position, and it's something that if you get the first shot off, chances are you're going to win. Or if you're more accurate, and that's kind of the most important thing that I've come across with using this gun. You have to be accurate using it because it doesn't have a fire rate. So you can't just spray and pray. You do have to make sure your shots land on target, and if they do, it's only going to take 5 to 6 shots to drop somebody in armor, like in Packer. It won't take that many shots, and that's using the armor piercing rounds. Obviously, if you're going at soft targets, the armor piercing rounds do take a few more shots, but that's kind of just the trade-off that you have to make, and it is a worth it trade-off because overall, it's better to be prepared to run into somebody with Packer or Fort because a lot of players do run with either of those at the moment, so it's better to be prepared and just take a few extra shots to kill a soft target. So anyway, we'll jump into the gameplay that I've pre-recorded and we'll show off how the gun works in an actual scenario. There you go. So, I mean, that's kind of example A. This is using the armor piercing rounds. I just want to point out I managed to get some and swap them out. So, it does take a few more rounds with armor piercing to drop someone than it does with your standard shot, your standard round. But personally, I find it worth it because those few extra rounds. Jesus, man, come on, situational awareness. Those few extra rounds aren't that big of an issue when you're going up against armored targets because it then pierces them. So it's worth the trade-off, being slightly less effective against soft armor or soft targets than it is to actually be effective against armored targets. Let's head up here. Here we go. There we go. Sweet. There we go. There's only 3 shots. Pretty sure one of them missed anyway. Big guy up there. Okay, let's push around here and see if we can find anyone else. So overall, as you can see, it doesn't have the best fire rate, but it does hit hard as hell when it hits. So I think it's something that you've got to be cautious to make sure that all of your, or at least most of your shots land on target if you want to be the most effective. You do have to be relatively accurate with it. Which is fine because the gun has a pretty good accuracy. Even on full auto, it's nothing too ridiculous. When we go to extract, if we get a chance to extract, I'll kind of see if I can show that off. Reload. Damn. Just a bit of a PSA, you can actually get, Fort does actually spawn right here. There's a chance of it happening. So if you are, if you are in factory and you happen to be first in, that's always a good spot to check. So it seems like most of the map's cleared, because I can't even hear anyone. So we'll just grab this, go loot that other guy, and then we'll get out. Cool. Alright then. But yeah, so overall, this is, it's a good gun. It's a real good gun. You just got to be worried about making sure your shots land on target. That's kind of the biggest thing with it. Where are they coming from? My left. Alright. They down? Can't tell where the fuck he is. There you go. So even standing up on the move, the recoil isn't actually ridiculous. I mean, it's not good, but I'm running, so it's never going to be. But, you know, overall, it's not that bad. You know, if you're in a firing position, so if you're stopped, you know, and crouched, then the recoil is, you know, manageable, to say the least. So, it's just kind of something you have to be wary with your shots and make sure that you're, you know, you can't run and gun as much with this unless you're in real close quarters. But then again, if you're doing that, there are many guns better suited to it. So, what we'll do is we'll leave and we'll jump back in and do it again, and we'll kind of just, you know, one more round to show off the gun's capabilities. But I think that pretty much adequately does it. Using the armor-piercing rounds takes a few extra shots, but even then it's still only 4 or 5 to actually drop a target. So, awesome. What you have? Okay, there we go. That's our first armored target. But yeah, he dropped pretty quickly, so. Alright. Set up top. So much for that. That was really effective. Alright, reload. Okay. See if we get anyone else.
А ты кепка ёбаная!
Got him. There we go, we've got someone down there.
Вали кепку!
He's down. What else we got? We've got AI back here. Okay. There we go. Cool, he's down as well. I think that's more or less everyone. So as you can see, it takes a few extra shots using the armor-piercing rounds to take out soft targets, but that's kind of a trade-off that personally I'm willing to make. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed, hope you found something useful. If you did, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. If you want any questions, queries, it out for points, chuck them in the comment section below and I'll try and clear them up as best I can. I do recommend you check this gun out, so, you know, it's pretty cheap, not that expensive, worthwhile investment. Anyway guys, like I said, hope you enjoyed, I'll catch you guys next time.